This is John Henry Weston for LifeSite News. We are on day one of our coverage of Pope Francis in Canada on the 27th of July. And today at the Citadelle de Quebec in Quebec City, Pope Francis met with indigenous leaders. Also present was Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, as well as the Governor General. And the ceremony started actually with a smudging ceremony again. And it's very weird. I want to show it to you because it has very pagan elements. Just so that you know, this isn't something that this is very actually reminiscent of the Pachamama experience in Rome. We're going to show you that and detail it for you now. I want you to take a look first at this clip, the very first one, where the indigenous leader who is speaking and offering this smudging ceremony after giving gifts to Pope Francis of sweetgrass as well as a feather. He says Pope Francis is, has a hard time with smoke, so he's not going to do the traditional smudging where the smoke comes to you, etc., etc. But he does it there in close proximity while Pope Francis is holding the feather and the sweetgrass. But he starts off asking for the 4 different directions, north, east, south, and west, to open themselves so that they can access those directions. So have a listen to this.
I will ask the east direction to open its door so we can have access to that direction. I will ask the southern direction to open its door as well, to have access to that direction. I will ask the western direction to open that door.
Okay, so after this, the Aboriginal leader who is leading the ceremony, the smudging ceremony, then goes to blow a bone whistle, just a plain bone whistle. He blows it 4 times, but before he does that, he asks those present, which include, of course, Pope Francis, as well as cardinals, several cardinals, Cardinal Collins from Toronto, Cardinal Lacroix, formerly of Quebec City, or now of Quebec City, and Cardinal Ouellette, who was actually formerly of Quebec City and now is the head of the Congregation for Bishops in the Vatican, asks everyone to put their hands on their hearts while he blows the sacred bone whistle. And you can watch this. This is him asking, and you can see the cardinals all following suit, as well as Pope Francis. Take a look.
I'd like for you to put your hands on your heart, each one of you. The heart can be like a talking stick, but that's where the Creator put wisdom in humans. And we often need to remind ourselves of this. It's an important gesture to connect ourselves with that wisdom.
Now, after that part is over, comes probably the most concerning part. And that is where, at the end of this ceremony, after having the directions opened, so that they could access them, calls on one of the directions, he calls the grandmother, to basically open the spirit world to them so that the circle of spirits can join them there. Very concerning indeed. Sounds very pagan, almost like witchcraft, but have a watch for yourself.
I asked the Western grandmother to give us access to the sacred circle of spirits so they can be with us, so we can be united and stronger together.
So that happened. Very concerning, very much reminiscent of what happened with the Pachamama in Rome. However, in this ceremony, at the end of it, Pope Francis gave a speech in which, in the presence of Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, probably the most extreme pro-abortion Prime Minister we've ever had here in Canada, the Pope actually mentions protection for the unborn. In fact, he comes at it by way of colonization. He talks about ideological colonization, a term developed by Pope Benedict, used by Pope Francis somewhat frequently. And he talks about this in relation also to the unborn and the getting rid of or throwing away of the unborn. So that was somewhat of a surprise, a welcome surprise. Take a look at that.
Brothers and sisters, the poor, migrants, the elderly, the sick, the unborn. They are the forgotten ones in affluent societies. They are the ones who, amid general indifference, are cast aside like dry leaves to be burnt.
I mean, quite something, very confusing. Pope Francis saying one thing sometimes, one time another thing. Really trying to figure out Pope Francis has been a very difficult thing. Nonetheless, even despite all of this, the smudging ceremony, then the pro-life comment, which actually was very welcome, there was other things that were very confusing about the day. So even the organizers were expecting a whole bunch of people, much more attendance. Pope Francis, when he was making his remarks, you see there he's in a room with the Governor General, with the Prime Minister. It looks to be crowded. It's a very small room. In fact, what was set up was a huge field over at the Plains of Abraham, which had a massive screen, and there was latrines set up, porta potties, and a huge field. We were there. Check this out. This is the video of what we saw when we got there, and this is during the height of the time when people are set up with chairs to be able to watch Pope Francis making the remarks that you just saw. Check this out.
Commission and all of those watching from coast to coast to coast.
And as you can see, it was unbelievably small in the number of people who actually participated. So this is our live coverage from what's going on here in Quebec City on the Pope Francis visit to Canada. And we'll be here tomorrow as well as he finishes his celebrations over tomorrow and the next day in Quebec City. LifeSite News is here live. This is John Henry Weston, and may God bless you.